Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of the X-Factor Sportz Podcast, Season 4, Episode 9. Yes, we are moving along in this season. Exciting time, obviously playoff time, so we love that. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight. We got a great show for you as always. We're heavy on the basketball this season, this episode, just because of where we are on the calendar. Obviously, we got to get in. Talk about conference finals, NHL and NBA. We got to talk about some awards. We got some All-NBA awards that we got to get into. Before we get into all of that and into the segments, let's get into the quick news. And we're going to start with the NHL. All right. We got the Canucks and the Oilers. Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much to the Edmonton Oilers for winning Game 7. I picked them to win this series, even though they were the underdog. They had been playing the best hockey, so I felt like they would win. They win a Game 7 on the road in Vancouver, so shout out to them. They did all their work in the second period on Monday, scoring the 3 goals they needed to finish it off in period 2. Vancouver came back, scored 2 goals in the third. Obviously wasn't enough. They lose 3-2 in Game 7 at home. Now they go on to play Dallas in the conference final. The city of Dallas is lit this week. You got the Mavericks in the Western Conference final in basketball, and now you got the Dallas Stars in the West final in hockey. So it's crazy down there. We'll see what happens. Dallas beat a good Colorado Avalanche team in 6 games last week. Congrats to Colorado. They were undermanned. They won a championship a couple years ago. Shout out to them. They played hard. But again, I'm glad I got 3 out of the 4 picks right going into the conference finals for the NHL. Panthers and Rangers play in the East final. That starts tonight. So I had New York going to the Eastern Conference final, but I actually had the Bruins beating the Florida Panthers. Panthers ended up beating them, so 3 out of 4 right. Not too bad about that. I did have Boston going. Should be a good series, but the Rangers look strong at home. So I think the Rangers are going to get to a Stanley Cup final. They look real good on their home ice, so shout out to them. And that's what we got for hockey. Now on to boxing. I know you guys aren't used to hearing me talk about boxing, but when there's big news in boxing, I like to talk about it. Ole Usyk beat Tyson Fury this weekend in a huge upset. Heavyweight boxing, unified all the belts. It was a great fight. It was a split decision. Even knocked down Tyson Fury, wobbled him a little bit on the ropes in the ninth. So that was a great fight. We all love combat sports, but combat sports are at its best when the heavyweights are prominent, when the heavyweights are winning championships, taking the belts from other heavyweights, UFC, boxing, anywhere. That's when the sport is at its best. So Ole Usyk, salute to him. Beating Tyson Fury, the reign of Tyson Fury over the last decade, it seems like, being a heavyweight title champion. Just like when Fury beat the Klitschko brothers, it was a big shift in heavyweight fighting. Took Deontay Wilder out twice, unified all the belts. Heavyweight boxing was a big deal. It kind of died down because Tyson Fury was beating everybody. Now we got Ole Usyk in there. Hopefully he can hold on to it for a while and make the heavyweight division exciting. So it was a great fight Saturday night. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Tyson Fury was trying to do his showmanship, have his tongue out, wagging his head back and forth. And he was just taking shots to the chin off Usyk. So it was a big fight and a good win. All right, now the NBA brings out their All-NBA awards. Again, they're similar to the NFL, how they try to drag this thing along to make you tune in and watch. Ratings is a big thing, apparently. So all NBA awards, the all NBA first and second, third teams come out tonight. They're on right now as we speak, actually. But yesterday and Monday, we got all NBA, all defense, and we got all rookie. And we got some history being made. So congratulations to Wemby. This kid is cleaning up awards left and right in his rookie season. First player in NBA history to be first team all defense and first team all rookie. So congrats to him. I remember when Tim Duncan was all NBA his rookie year. He wasn't first team all defense though. But to be all NBA as a rookie, what Tim Duncan did was incredible. So congrats to Wemby. He's obviously on the right trajectory on the defensive end, and he's an all rookie. He'll be an all NBA player in a few years. I wouldn't be surprised. Rudy Gobert, first team all defense for the 7th time. I think Rudy been in the league for 10 years maybe, and he's been all defensive first team 7 times. Unanimous this year, obviously defensive player of the year. So Rudy got that. Drew Holiday, if you watched the game last night, saw what Drew Holiday did in overtime on defense to Tyrese Halliburton, what he's been doing his whole career, it makes sense that he is all defensive player. He's been there for the 6th time this year. I think Jaylen Brown should have made it, but Devin White got it for Boston on the 2nd team. But Jaylen Brown probably played his best defense this season and didn't make an all-defensive team, which is crazy to me. I think he should have got it. So congrats to them. I think AD got first team all defense. He deserved it too. So with that being said, all NBA, the all NBA team is the same as it was last year, except you replace the MVPs. So Embiid is out, Jokic is in, and then they're followed by Shea, Luka, Tatum, and Giannis, which I got no qualms about all NBA first teams. The only problem I have with all NBA is this. They're changing it to be a positionless award, and it takes a little bit of the prestige out of it to me. So y'all let me know what y'all think about that. I think the all NBA first, second, third team should be by position. What it does is at the end of your career, you get to see who was the best player at their position in their era. When Jordan played, Jordan was all NBA, first team all NBA 10 times. And that was when it was by position. So you go back and look in the archives, you can see that for a decade, Jordan was the best shooting guard in the league, right? So anytime there's these splitting hairs about greats, you can go to that all NBA. I respect all NBA more than all-star nods. If you are a first team all NBA or all pro, just like in football, if you're a first team all pro, that means your peers, the coaches, the media, everybody know that you are the best at that spot. That's why I like it to be at a specific position. Because what's going to happen is 10 years from now, there'll be a conversation about Shea and Luka, who was better, right? But they're both first team all NBA guards. So there's no separator. They're both point guards though. So back in the day, we were able to separate who was better between Clyde Drexler and Reggie Miller at that 2-guard spot, Steve Smith. Because who was second team all, they all had to be second team all NBA because MJ had that spot locked and loaded. But you get what I mean? Like David Robinson and Olajuwon. Like you can tell they were both in the West. They were centers. Who was first team all NBA more, right? Then Shaq got in the West for the Lakers. That's what made it more competitive at the position. But I understand the game's changing. We have this positionless basketball. They already did it with the All-Star game. I think they should leave it at the All-Star game because that's an exhibition. Sure, they're playing the game and they can make it positionless. But when it comes to voting for all NBA awards, we're talking about the top 15 players in the league at their position. So that's why I kind of got a problem with the positionless all NBA ballots, right? And even to go further into this, the era of the power forwards in the early 2000s when you had Dirk, this was all in the Western Conference. You had Chris Webber, Dirk, Rasheed Wallace, Antonio McDyess, KG, Tim Duncan. I don't know if I said C. Webb, I think I did. But you had 7 power forwards in one conference for 3 all-NBA positions. That's what elevated the game, right? That's what made the game so competitive at that time because everybody was trying to be the best power forward or the best player at their position, right? And Tim Duncan has more first-team all-NBAs than all of them. So like I said earlier, when you talk about splitting hairs at position, who's the greatest power forwards, Timmy's going to get the nod, not only just for championships, but individual accolades like first team All NBA. It's going to be hard to see down the road who's better than who because of the positionless basketball. We don't know who did what at what position or who was better. So food for thought. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. But when it comes to the awards, I feel like they should keep it at position. So that's how I feel about that. But we're going to segue into a question. Y'all saw the game last night. The Celtics got one. I say you let me know if they stole it or if the Pacers gave it away. Either way, they won. In the playoffs, it don't matter. A win's a win. But the question is it championship or bust for the Boston Celtics? I believe that it is championship or bust for sure. They've been to the conference finals 5 times in the last 7 years. They've been to an NBA finals. And Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum aren't even 28 years old yet. A lot of playoff success between those two young players, young great players. And they played in over 100 playoff games together already. So a lot of playoff experience, a lot of success in winning. But this year has to be championship or bust for a number of reasons. One, because the NBA is just getting better in terms of team parity. It's not just a couple teams that can win championships now. If you see now in the Western and Eastern Conference Finals, it's teams that haven't been there. The window is closing for Boston. On the business side, they're going to have a decision to make. You've already paid Jaylen Brown $300 million. Jason Tatum's max contract is up. That's another $300 million. You're going to have $600 million dedicated to 2 players in your franchise for the next 5 years. So if a championship doesn't come out of that, like how do you determine the salary cap, how do you justify that salary cap or that luxury tax hit that you're going to have when you got 2 players on your team that are making $300 million for 5 years? So I say that this is championship or bust for that reason. Also, because of the matchup. Like, this is going to be probably the easiest route. No disrespect to any other team. But even Vegas has the Celtics winning the championship now with Denver out the way. I had Denver going to the finals against Boston. But not only is Boston going to be favored in every game or in a series, they're going to be favored in every game probably moving forward. They're that heavily favored to win a championship because of what's in front of them. They have the best matchup every night. They've been the best team all year. They are the home favorite. They're going to have home court advantage in every series. And they lost 4 games at home in the regular season. So, I mean, everything is in their favor. The experience, all of it falls on the Celtics side. The only thing you can say about the Celtics that they may not have the nod in is the coaching nod. In this series, obviously, Rick Carlisle's an NBA champion already. Experience, been in the NBA for 30, 40 years, player and coaching. They may not have the coaching nod in the series, in this series in particular. But they have this far more superior team in terms of players. So I feel like they absolutely should be favored to win the championship. Now it is championship or bust. We can't have it any other way. They've been to so many conference finals. Like, I don't even think it matters anymore that they get to a conference final. They have to at least, every year, their expectation should be to get to a final in the East and to win it. So with all this experience and all this winning that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have, I believe that this is championship or bust. And a lot of people probably were saying that before the playoffs started. I picked the Celtics to get to the finals. But now with the path of inexperience in their way, you have to go with championship or bust for sure. So y'all let me know what y'all think. We are on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Rumble. As always, the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, and of course, follow. If you can't catch us on Wednesday nights, here. You can always catch us on the audio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, now YouTube Music. We're on Pandora as well, iHeartRadio. So we're everywhere. Audio, video. You can catch us all the time at any spot. And let us know what you think. You can always interact. We respond to the messages. So just let us know. All right. So from that, we'll get into the conference finals. Okay. Did y'all see that game last night? Pacers in Boston. The Pacers almost went into Boston and stole game one, right? And think about the mental toughness you have to have going into Boston. Not only that they're going into Boston, obviously the overwhelmingly favored Boston Celtics 1 seed, but the fact that the Pacers have played 3 games in 5 days in 3 different cities and took this team to overtime and pretty much had the game won if it wasn't for Jaylen Brown hitting that crazy 3 in the corner. But this young Pacers team, I don't think this series is going to be as easy as people think. I have the Celtics winning the series, but I don't think this series is going to be as easy as people think. This Pacers team is tough. They run and gun. They force you to play their style. If you watch that game, Boston was playing the way the Pacers wanted them to play. Up and down, it's a track meet. They don't slow down. As soon as you score, they get the ball out the net and they go. And they force Boston to play that style. And I feel like if Boston doesn't change the style of play, they're going to be in for a very long series. And all these games will be close, tough games that can go either way. And that's a series Boston doesn't want to be in, right? Especially without Porzingis. They say Porzingis is supposed to come back for game 4. We'll see. Hopefully he's healthy enough. But if you watch game 1, you saw a number of things. One, the Pacers tried to run you out of the gym. They are targeting Al Horford every chance they get. They're trying to get a pick and roll situation where Al Horford's the main primary defender. And they're going to shoot a lot of shots. They want possessions. They know that in the half court, they have a disadvantage. So they want to run and get as many possessions as possible and get as many mismatches with Al Horford as possible. And Luke and Cornette, when he gets in the game, on Miles Turner. Their first half, Miles Turner went crazy on Cornette. So they need Porzingis. If I learned anything from game 1, even though Boston snuck away with a win at home, a win's a win in the playoffs, you want to get as many as you can, obviously. First to 16, that's the rule. But what I learned in that game is they need Kristaps Porzingis in this series. Everybody talked about they don't need Porzingis in that Cleveland series. The way the Pacers want to play and how they're trying to target the bigs, they need Porzingis in that game to match that on the offensive end and pull all their bigs, Miles Turner, out of the paint with his three-point threat. So I think Boston needs that. But the Pacers, man, they're tough. They're obviously in the Eastern Conference Finals for a reason. A lot of people were complaining, the Knicks were hurt. I picked the Pacers to win that series in 7, even when they were down 0-2, just because of the style of play. Styles make fights. The Knicks play 6 guys for 48 minutes. And I said, if the Pacers play the way that they're playing, this series will go 7 and they will run out of gas. We talked about it last week. The Knicks needed to beat them in 6 because they would have to turn around in less than 48 hours and play this team again. And they were running on fumes. And sure enough, this past weekend, that's what happened. Running on fumes, a lot of soft tissue injuries for the Knicks, abdomen strains from Josh Hart, OG Anunoby pulling hamstring. That comes from just fatigue. A lot of those injuries were non-contact, soft tissue strains and pulls. That's fatigue. And they were running on fumes. The Pacers took advantage. Now, Boston needs all their horses. They won this game yesterday, but the bench only scored 13 points. That's tough. You can't expect Drew Holiday to put up 28 every night. At this point in his career and defend on the other end, I mean, it was a great game for Drew Holiday. He's the player of the game for me, but you can't expect that from him every night, right? So Derek White's got to find his shooting. They got to stop turning the damn ball over so much. Jason Tatum had a couple dumb turnovers, jump passes. So I think the Celtics can clean that up and go out in game two, but they love giving game twos away. So if you're a betting person, I know we ain't doing bet that, but if you're a betting person, you probably want to look and see if the Pacers take game two because the Celtics like giving away game two at home. So that may be a smart bet. But adjustments that will be made, obviously. A lot of turnovers in this first game. Sloppy game. It's usually a fill-out game. Celtics need to clean up turnovers. Pacers turned the ball over a lot, and that probably was the difference. They had more turnovers, and they had the game won, but they fought every step of the way. Every time Boston pulled away, the Pacers came back, and obviously it took a baseline fall-away three from Jaylen Brown to send it to overtime, and then Tatum took over. I think he scored more points than the Pacers did in overtime, actually. Pretty close. And they get game one. So that was a crazy game. I'm excited for this series. I think this series is actually going to be more exciting than I thought it would be. If it's any indication from game one, I'm looking forward to game two for sure. Then on the other side, tonight, playing right now, you got the Mavs and the T-Wolves. This series is interesting. I got the T-Wolves winning this series simply because they got the home court. But before we get into where they are now, let's talk about how they got there. Starting with the T-Wolves. The Timberwolves, I've never seen a team ever in almost 40 years of watching basketball dominate a series that went to 7 games. Let me tell you what I mean by that. The T-Wolves beat the Nuggets in 7 games, right? The Nuggets had the home court. Out of the 4 games the T-Wolves won, 3 of them were in Denver. High altitude. They're playing against the defending champions on the road. Young, inexperienced. Rudy Gobert misses a game. And they win 3 of them on the road. And, oh, yeah, by the way, the one that they won at home, they won by 45. All right? So, and all the games they won, the Nuggets were under 100 points. So, when you think about all those factors, the Minnesota Timberwolves put on the most dominant performance I've seen in a series that went 7 games that I can remember. Y'all let me know if y'all can think of another series that may have been that way, but I can't think of a time where a team that was not favored to win the series won 3 games on the road and a 4th game by 45 points, and their defensive player of the year was out again against a 3-time MVP, right? So congrats to the T-Wolves. They earned the right to play in the Western Conference Finals and host it. They're actually the higher seed, so they get home court. And because of that, I don't know if Dallas can get out of this series. Some things will have to be a lot different in this series than it was in that OKC series for them, and that's how they got here. They beat the OKC Thunder in 6, actually, which is a salute to them, beating the number 1 seed in 6 games. The experience of Luka and Kyrie, of course. I think this series will be better for Kyrie, though, and this is why. Defensively, he had to play a certain way that he's not used to playing. He was playing against point guards that were bigger than him. Shai Gilgeous is 6'6". J-Dub is 6'5", strong. And Kyrie expended a lot of energy on the defensive end, so he wasn't really scoring like he normally does. In this series, though, I feel like Kyrie is going to be able to do his thing because he's guarding a smaller guard, a guard his size, Mike Conley, right? Nothing against Mike Conley, but he ain't Shai and he ain't J-Dub. And he doesn't attack the defense as much as Shai does downhill. Shai's looking to attack every time. And salute to Kyrie for taking on that challenge to defend and go on the other end and facilitate, make plays. In this series, I think it frees him up a lot more to score. I know Ant Edwards talked about I got Kyrie in the press conference when they won. I don't know if you want them problems. You asked for them, but, you're going to have to see. We're going to see if you got it. But like in any playoffs, the talent, the the gamesmanship, the intensity kicks up another notch in the next round. So we'll see where they're at. Luka gets an extra day off because he didn't play on Tuesday. He's playing tonight. So we'll see how that knee holds up. But I think this is going to be a fun series too. I think these two series in the East and West are going to be a lot of fun. I think they're going to be long series. I just feel like Minnesota's going to win simply because they have the home court. And they've proven that they can win on the road. I just talked about how dominant they were against the defending champs. So it's cool to see that, see what Ant Edwards can do. He can't be inconsistent in this series like he was in the last. Obviously, Dallas has the blueprint on him. If you double team him, get the ball out of his hands, make other people beat you. I think that they have the size to do it. I don't know where Michael Porter Jr. was in that last series, but that's probably the reason they lost because Michael Porter Jr. didn't show up. And P.J. Washington showed up for Dallas in the OKC series. So if we can get P.J. Washington to show up again, and Derrick Jones Jr. is probably going to guard Ant-Man most of the time. He's just as athletic, longer. So he'll probably get the assignment. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Dallas has the size to match up with Twin Towers. You got Derek Lively over there. You got Daniel Gafford over there. So they have the size to defend and compete. So honestly, if I'm giving you a prediction, like I said, it's simply because Minnesota has the home court is why I'm going with them to win it. So, and Luka's not 100%, but he's fighting through it. He's battling through it. So we'll see what happens. That should be a fun series, though. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Again, you can always comment, like, share, subscribe, and follow on the X-Factor Sportz Podcast on YouTube. And we always get back to you through the show. All the fans that watch religiously know that. Let me know what y'all think about that. All right? So with that being said, we talked about all these new bloods in the conference finals, except the Celtics. The Celtics seem like the old veterans that won't go away, right? Even though their two best players are 26 and 27 years old. But this brings me to this. The parity that we're seeing in the NBA, is that a great thing or a good thing? Because it ain't bad. You just got to tell me, is it good or great? I believe it's great for business. Why is that? From a business standpoint, parity is good in sports because all these mid-level or lower market teams are competing for championships. All right. If we look the last 6 years, we've had 6 different NBA champions. And nobody has repeated since the KD Warriors in 2018. All right, Toronto won, the Lakers won, Milwaukee won, the Warriors again, the Nuggets, and now we're going to have a different champion this year. So no back-to-backs. Dynasties are on hold for a little bit. So I think the parity is great. We had a Milwaukee Bucks team and a Denver Nuggets team in a small market win a championship. The Pacers have a chance to get to a final. The first time since 2000. We got Minnesota to get to their first NBA finals ever. And I was born before the Timberwolves were even a franchise. So for them to get to a final was cool to see with the opportunity. Dallas obviously has been to the finals, won one. And then we know the lore and the history of the Boston Celtics. But I think it's cool to see. A lot of parity. These small to mid-level market teams are good enough to get to a playoff and go deep in the playoffs. The Hawks went to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years ago when Trae Young went on that run. I think it's cool to see. So I'm excited for it. Sacramento was good last year. It's a lot of these little teams. Cleveland is getting back to it with Donovan Mitchell. If he stays or leaves, I don't know yet. Good to see Orlando in the playoffs this year. So it's fun. I think it's good for business for that regard, right? You get more stars laid out across the NBA, more teams to watch, more all-stars from different teams, makes the game a lot more competitive, and there's more parity in the league. So what's keeping this parity, or what's making this parity grow, I guess? Is it salary caps? You know, teams, now that we have that Supermax contract, players can't leave or are enticed to stay after that first rookie deal because the team that drafted them can pay them the most. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what's keeping teams here. I I would say that's probably the number one thing that it is. Draft picks panning out. A lot of these players and a lot of these owners are patient. We got a lot of more analytics. We got more new age GMs are building teams and they're being more patient. Look at Oklahoma City. They let Paul George, they let Russell Westbrook go and got a truckload of picks. And now all these picks are turning into Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. They got a bunch of picks this year. Sam Presti can actually build from the ground up with young talent. So maybe it's draft picks, trades, making smart trades for your team. I mean, everybody talked about this Dallas trade and this Knicks trade was a bad trade. What is Jalen Brunson going to do? Dallas went to a Western Conference final with Jalen Brunson as a backup, and now he goes to the Knicks. All those talking heads on those big shows were talking about, this is a crazy trade. Jalen Brunson's not a star. Now, if you fast forward to this year, all you hear about is Jalen Brunson's a star. Instead of giving these players a chance to flourish and blossom, everybody run their mouth too early. All right. Got to let these players pan out. So I think that's what we're seeing. A lot more GMs are patient in letting these players grow these last few years. And we're starting to see the fruits of their labor, so to speak. Anthony Edwards, a number one pick after 1 year at Georgia. And now he's 22 years old with the opportunity to lead his team to their first NBA title in franchise history. So cap space, drafting picks and letting it pan out, actually building the organization with these players and making good quality trades. I talked about the Jalen Brunson trade. On the Dallas side, everybody's talking about Luka and Kyrie won't work. And here they are in the Western Conference Finals with a huge trade that went unnoticed midway through the season, getting PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, getting Daniel Gafford out of Washington. Huge pickup. You brought size, you brought athleticism. Luka can get the ball, pick and roll, lob threats, and they're two-way players. They were long, athletic wing guys that can play defense. I think that trade was obviously a success because look at where they are now. So making these smart, savvy trades and building around your team, a combination of those things, I feel like is why we have such good parity in the NBA, and I don't think it's going away. So these dynasties are going to have to chill for a while, and it's fun to see. Now it just makes it interesting. Who do you think is going to win a championship this year? Might not be the same team next year because of the way things are panning out. So you guys let me know what you think about that. Do you like the parity that's going on in the NBA? Do you like the cap space, the salary cap moves, the way the GMs are working and getting these teams built? Because it looks good aesthetically on TV. We're talking about new superstars. We're talking about the changing of the guard with young players. Can Anthony Edwards be the face of the league? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jason Tatum. Is Jokic already the face of the league? 3 MVPs in 5 years. Will Embiid come back next year with young Tyrese Maxey? A lot of questions about the league, and it's from different teams around the NBA. So that's what I think is cool about it. So the NBA is flourishing, and hopefully everybody's tuning in to it. All right. Before we get up out of here, though, all right, we go to the 2-minute warning, as always, everybody's favorite segment. And I just got a question, as always, about being comfortable getting uncomfortable. All right. Are you guys comfortable with being uncomfortable? What I mean by that is prepare yourself for any situations, whether it's at work, on your sports teams, in your relationships, in your personal life, in any way, shape, or form. Prepare yourself for the uncomfortability that is inevitably going to come, right? Everything is not going to go smooth. So how do you prepare yourself to be uncomfortable? Of course, everything's not going to go perfect. Everything is not smooth. Even when we do this show every week, something happens. Every other week, there's a challenge, but you have to prepare yourself to push forward mentally and be prepared for any type of obstacles and overcome them. And that's life in general, right? Nothing in life is linear. All right. There's always variable and there's always different changes. So finding yourself and finding a center and being mentally prepared to overcome the uncomfortable positions is how you find success. So when you're thinking about doing things or you have the opportunity to kind of expand on whatever it is you're doing in a relationship or with a project at work or just a new adventure altogether, you have to account for variable change, right? It's just like they teach you in math. You have to be aware of the variable changes. And you have to prepare for the uncomfortability and be comfortable getting uncomfortable. All right. This is Jay Mundane of the X-Factor Sportz Podcast, Season 4, Episode 9. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. We are on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Rumble, and all the audio podcast spots. You can check us out there. We are now on YouTube Music even. So be sure to check us out. Like, share, subscribe, follow. This is Jay Mundane of the X-Factor Sportz Podcast, Season 4, Episode 9. We are out of here. Peace.